It's Guess the Handicaps, our look ahead to the hurling weekend. I'm Mick from Balls.ie, and playing today are Gary and PJ. We're going to be looking ahead to the biggest games of the Alliance Hurling League this weekend, and the lads are going to try to pick what the bookies' handicap are for each game. If you're new to the channel, please do subscribe now. We are here every Thursday and Friday with the hurling and football all the way through the GAA season. So let's get to it. Tip versus Galway, lads. Let's start the mad time of 1:30 on a Saturday afternoon for this game, Division 1A. Tip, like, I don't know, Galway have been the most impressive team in the league so far. They destroyed Limerick at the weekend. Very, very good to see. But like in terms of the competition for this season, nothing against Limerick there from me. But Tip that I wouldn't worry too much if I was them either. But I suppose a lot of what you're thinking of in this is, as you go into the third round of the league, is where are the priorities? What are managers targeting? It's very, very hard to call when you look at these games, but I always love tipping Galway games.
Who's in first here?
PJ, I'm going to let you have the honour as the challenger.
Okay. Yeah, it's a very hard one to call. I mean, like these teams are only 5 weeks in to their season, like essentially 2 games in. Tip have had two draws so far. They got I think they got one last weekend against Cork, like last minute free, and yeah, Galway got
first day.
Yeah, definitely. Galway will be talked up as like the obvious most obvious All Ireland contenders outside of Limerick. I think here they look pretty sharp last week against Limerick. The other game they hammered Westmeath in the other game.
Strong use of the word.
Yeah, I think Tipper yet to score a goal so far in their 2 games. It's kind of going to be a worry for Liam Sheedy. But I think Tip at home, I'm going to go Tip -1 here.
I forgot before you commit to that, PJ, I forgot to mention the very interesting and definitely not self-indulgent add-on that I've added this year, which is that I also guessed these before I checked them, and there is the option of checking with my pick before you make yours. Now, there is no suggestion that is any help to you, and could be more hindrance than help, but I suppose that's the gamble. But it is there for both of you to check beforehand. But I presume that's not going to change your tip -1 prediction.
No, this is like a lifeline in Who Wants to Be a Millionaire, is it?
Yeah, you can use it as many times as you like, and your lifelines in Who Wants to Be a Millionaire are way more likely to actually be.
This is like my ask the host, so you're the I'm asking Jeremy Clarkson here.
Exactly, yeah. Long been compared with Jeremy Clarkson, of course, mainly due to my political beliefs.
I got to stick with tip -1 here.
Yeah, it's a tough one because, like, we were talking last week about some of the handicaps in the hurling games, and it's how much is there a reaction to the games that have come already, like Galway beating Westmeath well and then beating Limerick last week. You're wondering, will the bookies take that into account, and will there be a bit more leaning towards them? Like, I think Galway have to be the favourites because of how I don't know. I can't go -2 for tip, so I'm going to have to go evens.
You just said Galway have to be favourites, but I want to go tip -2, which makes no sense.
Sorry, Galway are fit, but it's just home advantage is still a thing, isn't it? Especially with the bookies.
The team you think is going to win, that doesn't really, that might not necessarily mean they are the favourite on the handicap.
That's exactly fair. Yeah. As we'll definitely talk about, especially in the Gaelic football show that we're going to do this week. I have a few things to say on a few of those, but you're dead right. That's a very good assessment. So you're going for evens, which is always an interesting one. You very rarely get it. It does win you the point here because PJ, if you'd asked me what I was going to say, I would have also had tip -1. Gary said evens. It is unfortunately for PJ. Galway -1, so favourites in Thurles, which is very interesting. I was incredibly surprised by that, but again, do go on last week's form and the form of the season so far, it does make sense. So that would be that sounds like it's going to be a close game, an interesting game. Those two are always brilliant. In the far superior 1A, we also have Waterford versus Limerick. Poor Westmeath, by the way, we're given a dog of a draw in this divided league. In there with Tip, Galway, Waterford, Limerick and Cork, and the other division is a struggling Clare, Antrim, Laois Dublin and Kilkenny and Wexford. So yeah, arguably the top 4 teams in the country are all in 1A.
Is there a lot of me going on in Westmeath, Gary?
I think we've been a bit unfortunate with that draw, to be honest, and I would also say the same about the football as well. And I'm sure we'll talk about that, but I think we've also been handed the much tougher draw in the Division 2 North of the football.
That was your geographical placement, though. You can't really do anything about that. Westmeath, of course, like most of their existence is down to their geographical placement. Waterford versus Limerick then in 1A, Sunday 3:00. All Ireland champions Limerick are winless. Something that Gary's up first with this one, but Limerick were there is straight away a difference there, because Limerick were winning every game last year. This was gone back to the league, everything like that was a big deal that was coming into it, was that Limerick were just going on to this season where they were just invincible, untouchable, and whatever about their easing into the season. The fact that John Kiley's given out about referees and Galway diving and then apologising about it and stuff like that just suggests that maybe everything isn't just exactly where they want it to be. It's not a very long preseason. You can't spend that long. It's not a preseason at all, I suppose, when it's the league. But if you were to consider it as that and the championship is the priority, you can't spend that long tapping away trying to get into form this year.
Yeah, I don't know. I think with Limerick, especially though, they're just, they don't care really about the league at all this year, even though it was unbelievable to go unbeaten for the whole of 2020 or whatever. But they're going to be, like, we even seen Limerick before have kind of almost tried to write off the Munster Championship unsuccessfully. Never mind with the league. So I don't think they're going to be that bothered with not having won either of their first 2 games. Like, they'll have to be favourites here against Waterford. Like, Waterford haven't been great the opening 2 weeks. They got well beaten by Cork, struggled to beat Westmeath last week, after Westmeath coming off the back of a big loss the week before as well. So, I don't know. I definitely pushed any panic buttons if I was Limerick yet. I think they'll still be thereabouts come the end of the championship, I would say.
Go on, what's your guess?
Limerick -4.
Limerick -4. I'm not suggesting Limerick won't be there or thereabouts, by the way, at the end of the championship.
No, either. I didn't think you were.
Panic buttons. I wonder, by the way, Waterford are an interesting one as well, and I'd be interested in how this goes, PJ, because Waterford are prone to have bad season after good. And consistency is an issue. And you always think, like, oh, sure, that doesn't matter. That what came before isn't going to affect what comes ahead. But it's amazing how counties do tend to have a profile almost.
I think Gary's guess is a little bit too big, first of all. So, the All Ireland final rematch, we kind of like I don't know, just barely talk about that All Ireland final rematch.
Final rematch, yeah. These were the 2 teams of last season.
Yeah, I do think, like, Liam Cahill didn't have a lot of time with Waterford last year. So, like, while it was his first season, it wasn't really like a full first season. And what he did with them last year was incredible, I thought, because they look so good. Like, their work rate was manic. It was as close as you were getting to Limerick, I thought. It is, like, I don't know, they haven't played well in those first 2 games. But yeah, the first 2 games, lost badly to Cork and beat
hammered to Cork and struggled past Westmeath. Yeah, well, like, I mean, they beat Westmeath, but it wasn't a huge scoreline.
I think into this year, this Waterford team is going to be, they're All Ireland contenders, like definite All Ireland contenders. They're going to be there or thereabouts. I think for this game, like the whole rematch of an Ireland final, I think you keep that kind of powder dry for the moment. You're not kind of getting the lads up for revenge. I think Limerick are favourites here. I just got a Limerick -3. Gary went too big there. I'm going to say Limerick -3.
Playing tactically. Right,
playing the right tactics, but surprising to me, who would have lost this game to both of you, who said Limerick -2. Gary is spot on here. It's Limerick -4. A lot of respect from the bookies, or fear from the bookies maybe, over Limerick, because I don't think their form warrants that, to be honest. But Gary called it right. He's trying to judge what they're saying. So Limerick -4 means that Gary has a 2-0 lead. To go with your 4-0 lead, I think that you had last week.
Yeah.
The other game
my chickens yet this week.
Exactly. The other game in 1A is Cork versus Westmeath. We're going to hold off on that for now, just in case PJ makes a comeback. 1B, lads. I originally had obviously Kilkenny and Wexford as the highlight of 1B. that game now doesn't have a handicap and you can't bet on it, and it might not go ahead, because I'm very surprised at this. I just assumed this stuff was behind us, and I don't know why, because we're not at that point as a society, but I just felt like we were as a sport. But coronavirus cases in the Wexford campus put this, I think 2 cases. They still hope it goes ahead, but I think it would be a real unfortunate. Like, the only thing going for it is that it clashed with Kerry and Dublin in the football. I was on at the same time on Sunday, so maybe if you put it back a week, it's not the end of the world. But there isn't many weeks in the calendar,
No.
so I don't know what they're going to do there. But the other 2 games are on. Well, hopefully Kilkenny and Wexford's on too. But in terms of handicaps, PJ, you're going to have to do this one. Interesting one to me, the Battle of the Capitals, Dublin versus Antrim. So it's who you're talking to, I suppose. In 1B, Dublin, I don't know. I'm just waiting for them to get to that next tier. At the moment, they're straddling between, they're like on their own between the 2 tiers. But Antrim, impressive again against Kilkenny, scoring 3 goals. Never going to win the game, but like they weren't hammered. They easily beat the handicap. What we talked about on last week's show, and just what a way, to be honest, like almost as big an achievement as beating Clare at home the week before, for me anyway.
They only lost by 7, I think, to Kilkenny.
Was it even 7? Yeah,
I think it was 7. I think it was 7, which is like, it's funny. You got it like a 7-point loss. You're like, geez, that's not too bad. But
it shows they can. It shows they're in the same league. Like literally, they are in the same league, but that they belong there as well. You know,
the 3 goals just stands out so much. I mean, like, while Kilkenny won that game, you can be certain that Brian Cody was absolutely raging over conceding 3 goals. Like, it doesn't matter who Kilkenny would concede 3 goals to. I'm sure he'd be absolutely raging about it. But especially like a team, Antrim coming up to the top tier of hurling for the first time since 2008, I think it is. So I'm sure he's especially unhappy about that. Like that win against Clare was it was magic. Yeah, it was like. It was great. It was just that weekend was like really good having the hurling back, and that Neil McManus point to put them up by that got them ahead was just
ridiculous.
It was ridiculous. It was ridiculous. It was like just like where he went for it. It was incredible.
It was a great moment.
Yeah. Dublin have lost to Kilkenny by 5, and they beat Laois by 8. Dublin at home, they're favourites. I can say. Like you wonder, like Antrim should be targeting this game. Antrim should think that they could win this game. I don't think they will. Dublin -5, I think.
Yeah, I'd agree with what PJ was saying there. I don't know, it's because again, we're going to have this conversation so many times, but it's form versus reputation in terms of like Dublin -5. You'd be thinking, yeah, definitely against Antrim, but will they take into account that they beat Clare and put up a good fight against Kilkenny? So it's a matter of, do I undercut PJ or overcut him? And I'm going to say -4 for Dublin.
You've finally gone wrong, actually. I had -4 as well. PJ had -5. It is -8. So, I mean, talk about your dressing room wall if you're Antrim, you know. Dublin -8 for that game. And I think too big, I have to be honest. That doesn't, not to say they won't beat it, but I just think in terms of setting a spread, it's huge. The other game in 1B then, really struggling Laois are at home to also struggling Clare. Clare should have beat Wexford last week. Bad sign for a team, I think, to give up 2-2 in injury time. But at the same time, the fact that they were in the game, and winning the game handily probably suggests that at least if their head is together, all is not completely lost. I'm pretty sure they'll win this game at the weekend, for example, and then you move on and get out of the league, alive at least. But I suppose, what's the handicap, Gary? I'd definitely be worried about the Laois's backward step, at least so far this year.
Yeah, it's a tough one because Laois haven't performed well at all in the first couple of weeks, and Clare, like that game last week, is a killer because with Davy Fitzgerald, he's always going to be mad to beat Clare, and Clare are always mad to get one over on him too. So to lose it in the way they did, especially like you said, you'd be encouraged to see that they were in a position to win the game, but then the fact that they went and blew it from there is probably more of a killer than if they went out and got bet by 10 points in the first place. So it's kind of difficult to judge where they're at because of that. But obviously they will be favourites at least against Laois. So how much are Laois going to be penalised for their poor form? So I'm going to say Clare -6.
Okay, PJ.
That is exactly what I had. I had that written down here. I had Clare -6 written down.
And I will tell you that he didn't get it exact. So you
Okay.
have a chance to bring us to a tiebreak here. A tiebreak Shane's going to go mad about because we're already over time.
Going by what the bookies have done so far with far bigger handicaps than I would have thought, then I'm going to have to go slightly bigger here. Like Clare were 8 points up against Wexford in the final quarter of that game. Like they should have won that game. I'm going to say Clare -7.
It is Clare -9.
Oh,
so
massive.
PJ ties it up. Nobody's anywhere close. I said -5 for that. Like, I don't know. Like, I mean, maybe I've underestimated that Laois were fairly well beaten in both their games, and don't look the team of last year, or more importantly, 2 years ago. It brings us to a tiebreak. The only Division 1 game we haven't talked about so far is Cork, the resurgent Cork, a win and a draw so far. They're going to win the All-Ireland. They're home to Westmeath. Poor old Westmeath, Gary, struggling in 1A. But I was very impressed by their performance against Waterford, I think this is a case of you both shouting an answer at me. I'll hear you. Okay, so whenever you get a chance there, Cork versus Westmeath, what is the handicap in 3, 2, 1?
Cork -11.
-16.
You're too slow there, Gary. We're gonna have to fix this handicap rule, but it does give you the victory. It is Cork.
I had -16. That was not any sort of cheating.
I do believe you. That's why I'm letting you away with it. But just for the integrity of the competition, I'm going to need you to be quicker than that. But it's 17.
I thought this is way too small.
I was expecting it to be a 3-2-1 go and then go, not a 3-2-1 and then go. It's like, do you go on one?
Sorry, we didn't establish. The rock paper scissors rules.
Yeah.
We will in future. And on that messy note, Gary has made a 2-0 for the season. He was the reigning champion going into tomorrow's football show, where we look ahead to the biggest games in its Division 1 and 2 of the Alliance football leagues, and we'll talk about all the big stories besides. Enjoy the hurling this weekend. It's going to be some big games. Tip Galway, Waterford, Limerick. Two boys will be back with me tomorrow to look ahead to the football, which includes, lads, Dublin versus Kerry in Thurles 20 years on.